Welcome to another episode of the Founder to Founder podcast. My name is Aaron Spivak, born and raised in Toronto, Ontario, here in Miami, and I've built multiple 7, 8, and 9-figure brands and recently just had the third largest D2C transaction in Canadian history. But today is not about me, because today you get to listen to another incredible story of the founder behind the founder, and we get to dive deep into what it takes to build something incredible. It's not always the tips and tricks, it's how you go about your life. So join us for another incredible podcast at the Founder to Founder. Dominic, baby. Thank you so much for coming on the Founder to Founders podcast, dude.
Thank you for having me.
We have so much to talk about, and I think everyone that's going to be listening today is going to get an insane amount of value. So I want to jump in right into it. First, tell us a little bit about yourself, where this all started, and what brings you here as 31-year-old dog.
Can we swear?
You can do whatever you want.
It was a wild fucking ride. It was a wild ride. Well, thank you for having me. Thank you for joining me in our Dago tee setup.
I had to. We got the same outfits. If you're watching this, you got
our tank top set up. It's a vibe. We're in Miami. Neither of us are from here. We're from the cold, so Miami. We're wearing tank tops. Yeah, thank you for having me. I don't even know where to start. It's been 12 years in the entrepreneurship journey. Started when I was 18, and I've done pretty much everything you could do, I guess. I started in software. I've gone, credit repair, little businesses here or there. I fell in love with CPG probably 7 years ago it's been. And I kind of went down that journey and eventually came upon MELA. But there's a lot of intricacies in every single story, It was a wild ride, that's for sure.
What was your first exposure into entrepreneurship? Like, was it something you grew up around?
Yeah, that's a great question. So the two father figures in my life, my dad and my uncle, who's like my second dad, he's my godfather, my mom's brother. They were both entrepreneurs, like small scale in the Midwest, family businesses.
Yeah.
And that really caused me, like at a young age, to really question like normality. And I even remember like when I was a kid, I don't have a lot, my memory is not that good, but I do remember like asking my mom the same question over and over. I'd be like, how much money does dad make? How much money does my Uncle Jim make? And she would kind of roughly tell me the answer. And I would question like, why? Why not more? Why not less? Like, what does it mean to kind of be your own boss and kind of have freedom? And I really, from a young age, questioned really everything naturally. Like nothing really instilled it in me that I know of that I can remember. I just remember not really aligning with what normality was and what everyone else was supposed to be doing. It was nice too. I grew up in a very affluent area when I was a kid. My mom was a single mom, and she gave me her idea, which came to fruition. It worked. Was she goes, I'm going to get the smallest house and like figure out a way to put my kid in the best area.
Wow.
So he would grow up with like successful, rich friends or family, like that type of thing, like put me in a good environment. And so that also caused me, like when we were in this really tiny house, like living on the corner, I wish I could show a photo, next to these mansions, it caused me to like question everything. Like, how do they have that house? What do they do for a living? Like, you know what I mean? So that's really how I got into it, was my environment, in my family business, and being in a good environment. Like when I was a kid, around
that level of
people.
Exposure and environment is super key. And one thing that, I often struggle with, and sometimes I flip-flop on this, is a lot of people ask me, are entrepreneurs born that way? Are they developed? And I'm curious if there was this moment in your life, but sometimes what I share is, a little bit of nature and nurture for sure. But sometimes there's a moment. There's a moment that you can remember that happened when you're like, I'm going to be a business owner. I'm going to be an entrepreneur. Did that happen for you? Was there a moment where it kind of clicked?
There wasn't any specific moment that came to mind. It was definitely lots of things. Domino effects constantly. Like I said, never seeing the two male figures in my life take orders. That takes years of like absorbing that to then realize like, wow, like there's other men that I look up or that are in business that I look up to that have a boss. and they can't go to their kids' soccer game because they have to travel or blah, 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 blah. And I realized that that's what happens in entrepreneurship, but I wanted that to be a choice, not necessarily like something I have to do, you know? So there is no specific thing that was like a moment. It was like a huge culmination, you know?
One thing I tell people all the time, and you're going to be the first person on the podcast. So so for a lot of people listening, this is the contradiction to everything I say. I tell everyone that what happened in my case, you know, being able to start, scale, and then exit a business in such a short amount of time should not be the norm. It almost never happens. And that no one should expect that. You should expect 8, 10, 12 years building something sustainable over a long period of time. And then potentially, you know, if your end goal is to sell it or exit it, find that vehicle. In your case, you had a very similar situation to myself. And you started your business was it in 21? Tell us a little bit about the start of that. How did you get into watermelon water, and why was that your vehicle? Would you say, you know what, this is my opportunity, I'm going to go all in? And did you expect it to be what it became?
Well, first of all, you're 100% fucking correct. Like the time frame of my situation and your situation is not normal. That's why I'm very lucky. I feel very blessed. I'm very grateful. I'm also very proud of, and I'm sure you are too. I say this all the time. I'm proud of I'm proud of myself, but I'm really proud of my former self. I'm proud of young Dom for being like hungry enough, young enough, and dumb enough to an extent, like delusional optimism when you're young, to like execute and go fucking hard and go fast because that's what drove the window to be short. And some people have long windows and they do that for a decade. So I'm just very grateful that I was able to figure it out so quickly. And then what was the second part?
Where did it come from? Like, at what point did you say, you know, because I believe that entrepreneurs are secretly testing all the time. You know, we're doing little things like, could I sell that? Is that going to be a thing? But sometimes you test something and you're like, whoa, it works. People like this. Did that happen for you? And then how did you get into this? Like, I remember I had it for the first time. I didn't even know you yet. And I called Chris and I was like, have you tried this watermelon water? He's like, bro, you got to meet Dom. I was like, no way. So like, how did it come about for you?
Yeah, I think CPG it took like I was saying a couple minutes ago, it took a lot of businesses to figure it out. And I'm sure you're the same, at least mentally, like tinkering with little things. CPG hit every single box for me. Reoccurring revenue, which is huge, right? You get an account, you get a store, whatever, it pays you for years. Okay. Like you have a product, even though it's a small amount. That was one great thing I loved about it. Another thing, the reoccurring revenue. The other thing I loved about CPG, at least in my mind, was you didn't have to be some hyper intelligent person. You could brute force and brick by brick your way to success in CPG. What I mean is like CPG is just extrapolated math of having a good product, and all those things matter, of course, but it's like, how many stores can you get in? And that takes a while. It's a roadmap, but it's a foreseeable roadmap, and you can get stores by hard work. It's like, if you wake up every fucking day and you have a brick by brick mentality, you're like, I'm going to get one door today. I'm going to get MELA in one store, one liquor store. And then the next day, the next, and the next day, the next. And you start to compound that. It's just like most of the things and the attributes of what make you successful and how you treat your life, maybe even outside of business, like that 1% thing. Yeah. In CPG, it's not scalable, but by brute force, it could be successful throughout time and getting more retail doors. So that's how I fell in love with it. It worked in my brain. It fit me very well. And like a liquor store owner, not to talk bad about them as people, they're amazing people, like the owners of liquor stores, the managers, but like, you're not pitching, you know, chemicals to a rocket scientist at NASA. You know what I mean? Like, you're literally like, I got this product. Here's the price point. Here's where it goes on. You can do it. Right. So that's why it just clicked with me. And I fell in love with that game. And then the last piece is the reason I like CPG. Maybe you're the same, as like the ego behind having a product that you love, that you can share with people. And like, you know, if you're in the concrete business, you can make a shitload of money, but it's not very fun. So there is an element of sexiness when it comes to CPG, which I loved, right? Like, you know, I meet some cool guy, it's you at the beach, whatever, I could ship you my product. You know, I can share it with people. So that it was like a 3-prong element of why I fell in love with CPG.
And were you in love with CPG before you discovered and decided on this product, or was it after?
Yeah, it was, so yeah, let me give you a background on the story of how I got there. So I was tinkering around with a lot of different things, very entrepreneurial my whole life. Before MELA, I actually helped start a beef jerky company. I didn't have equity in that company.
So you were working, like you were just like a market, like a CMO.
It was me and another guy. And so I was wearing a lot of hats. I was running everything besides finance. Like
it was like a paid gig. You were working for this guy.
Exactly.
Right.
But we started it from the ground level. So I got to kind of see, oh, this is what margin looks like. This is how you get a product. This is how packaging works. This is how you get a distributor. Because we started from nothing. And me and the other guy were both learning it at the same time. But the reason why it was such a good situation for me is because we were funded by, essentially, he's probably a billionaire. We were funded by a cattle rancher, a great family out of San Diego who owned cattle. And they sold meat to Costco and Walmart and major like restaurants. And the CEO of that company wanted to kind of have his own fun brand. So he goes, I want to make beef jerky out of my beef. And so we were like a project within this infrastructure. So all of our mistakes, you know, financially, we never hurt by them. You know, we were never like, if we made a wrong move or something, the business wasn't going under. So it was nice because, at least from my perspective, I was able to learn all these great things and figure out what I would do if I did this on my own, right or wrong, on someone else's dime. So that's like another thing that and that was really the first time I ever had a really like a job where I was like, you know what? I was so tired of doing things, trying and failing. I'm like, I'm going to go learn from somebody and get a paycheck. And it was 2.5 years, somewhere around that range. And I feel like a lot of entrepreneurs, especially young entrepreneurs, at least me, I was so anxious to be successful. I was so fucking like, I want to make money. I want to be something big, whatever, that like, it was the first time in my life I like took a deep breath and like, was like, I'm going to go work for somebody and see the system. Because most businesses, it's not rocket science. It's learning the systems and the processes of someone more successful than you. And that was my experience of doing that. So I learned all those things. And then when I found MELA in a liquor store, which I can get into also, I knew that that was like my shot to be like, I can make this huge. And I've kind of know the playbook so far. So I'm going to go in on it.
But I want to get into MELA and how you found it in a liquor store, because I think it's a fascinating story. But before that, I think what you just brought up is and should be the playbook that gets talked about more. What you just spoke about was the idea of getting paid through your MBA, right? If you're an aspiring entrepreneur, sure, you can be an idiot like me and go on YouTube videos and literally make millions of dollars of mistakes, just stumbling through things and financing myself through DJing on the weekends to be able to make, you know, pay rent and not take money out of my business and fund all these errors. But strategically, the smartest thing, in my opinion, for a young aspiring entrepreneur is to go and work for one, is to get as close to the sun as possible, get paid, watch and learn the mistakes, learn, oh, that works, that doesn't work. And what you brought up, which is so important, is understand the systems of these things, right? I love stepping into other people's companies all the time, even as a consultant or even just to help. And I get to watch the systems that are in place. And sometimes you can be like, you know what? I don't like that, but that was really cool. The way you guys do that is so cool. Let me inherit that. So when the time that okay, I'm going to do this now, I'm going to take this chance, you have such a good framework, step 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, that you can go and implement, and that you got paid the entire way through.
Yeah, dude. So I heard this one time and it like changed my whole fucking life. And thank God I heard this at like 23 years old. I think Ed Milet said this on a stage and it just clicked with me. It made sense. He basically said, your entire life, you're in a school system that shames you and punishes you for cheating. And what cheating is copying off the person next to you who's doing something right. Right. So every human goes to school and they think cheating is bad, which cheating in school is bad. But the thing is like in business, that's not the case, where it's not frowned upon to an element. You don't want to be an asshole about it or like be a scumbag but it comes to the element of you say, or what you just said, which is like in the real world, in real life, taking elements of what other people are doing that make them successful, that's not a bad thing. Like you don't want to copy them necessarily, like content wise or stuff like that. You want to put your own twist on it. But the fastest way to become successful is you find somebody who's doing exactly what you want to do. You try to learn from them. If you can work for them, and you literally absorb the information of how are they getting an A on this test, and you just copy them, you know, to your own, like I said, once again, your own twist, your own elements in your things. But you know,
it's my biggest line, where it's innovation through iteration. I don't want to be the first to do anything. You know, in the restaurant world, you know, I'm not necessarily own restaurants, but we have quick service restaurants. You know, at Revive in Toronto, we have 10 and 11 locations. And the one thing that everyone knows in the restaurant space is you never want to be really the first in that location. You want to be the third or the fourth, right? Because everyone else has already built the infrastructure. Now the people already know to expect food on that corner. It's a known spot to service people in the area. You know, if it's an absolute dud, if there was some success, but it was managerial issues or cuisine issues, you're able to learn from all the other mistakes. Then you make your own little twist on it, and you're able to start way ahead of the pack. So it's a huge point. And it's actually a cheat code in every environment to put yourself, you know, at the table, learn from other people who are a little bit ahead of you, already in the trenches, and then eventually absorb that information. But let's jump to the liquor store. Yeah. You walk in, is it you just walk into a liquor store?
Yeah. So, and this goes to your exact point that you just said, is literally my entire life story, which is what I realized is I'm very good at ideas. I'm very good at creating things, but I'm good at going from 1 to 10, not 0 to 1. I'm really good. Like you just used the example of, let's see if these other stores are working before I put my retail shop in this area. I'm now, what I've realized in the last 5 years of my life is I am fantastic at seeing something that's like working kind of, and it's like they're missing XXX and it could be fucking huge. So it was 2020, I think before COVID, or right in the midst of COVID. I was at a distributor in San Diego who's still our distributor for MELA to this day. And I refused to ever leave them, even though like MELA got to the point where we should have kicked them out because they're smaller or whatever. And I like have the principles to be like, no, this guy who owns this little distributor is how I got here. So like he's always going to be a customer of mine. Like fuck your contracts. Like he's going to have a carve out. Anyway, so I was in this little distributor in San Diego, and I was unloading my beef jerky. And there was a guy, his name's Spencer. He was the original founder of MELA originally. And he had like a kind of like a beat up old Jeep, like very, very startup-y vibes. He had the back trunk of his car open, and he was offloading a pallet of MELA that was stacked in his car by hand onto the dock of this distributor. And I talked to everybody. So I was like, hey, what is this? He's like, oh, this is my company, MELA. I was like, what is that? He's like, it's watermelon water. And at the time, I'd been in thousands of liquor stores, talked to thousands of employees, trying to pitch them the fifth beef jerky like on their shelf. I'm like, watermelon water? I've never had that, never seen it in a store ever, you know? And he's like telling me this story. He's like, yeah, we take these watermelons from Vietnam and we cut the rind off by hand and we juice it and just take the sweet core, like red core of the watermelon and put it in a can. He was telling me the story of where it comes from and the people who make it. And I was like fascinated. And I was like, wow, this is incredible. So he's like, yeah, here, have a case. He pulled a case from the distributor, like in the cooler, as ice cold. I took it. I never tried it in front of him because in CPG, as you know, like most products kind of suck. So like if the founder like hands you the product, so you're like, wow, this is fantastic. You're like, oh my God, I'd never eat this or drink this. So I took the case home, cracked it open, tried it, and I was mind blown. And I forgot to mention, you know, in the conversation too, we were talking about margin. I was asking him about the actual business, like, oh, what's your guys' margin like, or what stores are you in, things like that. So I got a good basis of information. He gave me his number, took the case home, was mind blown. I get home, I was living with all my buddies at the time. It's like, you guys got to try this shit. It's fucking incredible. Wow. They all tried it. They all loved it. It was our passion fruit flavor. And that was really the end of the story at the time because I was broke. So it was like, to me, it was just like meeting another guy who had a great product. Like that was it. I was like, wow, this is cool, whatever. Like out of sight, out of mind, back to work. Right. What was happening at the same exact time in that range while I met him was my college roommate and one of my best friends, Tyler Atkinson. We played baseball at San Diego State. And we're very similar, like-minded guys, just like me and you, like happen to be college roommates, which is probably why we clicked. In 2016, he would be like up late at night, like on his laptop, like studying like this shit. I'm like, what are you looking at? He's like, bro, he like sat me down. He's like, dude, if you don't start investing in Bitcoin right now, you are a fucking idiot.
This is 2017.
This is 2016, 2017. Wow. Yeah.
Yeah. It's like sub 10K.
Oh, it was Bitcoin was like $1,000, $2,000 a coin, you know. Ethereum, I remember, was like $900, something like that in that range. And so what I started doing, that was in college. So this was obviously a couple years prior. I'm just the knowledge of how we got to 2020 was basically when I was working for Baja Jerky, I was siphoning off money and just investing. You know, I was like studying crypto on the side. You know, when I'd get home at night, I was watching YouTube videos and looking at technology and hype and how cycles worked and, you know, what the next cycle's like narrative would be, right? And so I fell in love with Cardano. I fell in love with the founder, Charles Hoskinson, and like everything they were building. And I knew it was going to be big. So I basically... my dad had passed away and I got left like very low six figures. I blew most of that trying to start businesses, but I had like $20,000 left. And so I put that in there and I started, you know, putting money in from my job working at Baja Jerky into Cardano. We're talking like $500, $1,000 a month. Like that's all you needed, right? Because it was a cent per coin. And so what was happening is I was working for this Baja Jerky, learning this system, simultaneously building, you know, a very couple $1,000 portfolio in crypto. And I discovered MELA kind of all at the same time. And what happened was then COVID hit, interest rates went to zero, crypto fucking exploded. So I made about $1 million in crypto. And this was in 2020 or 2021, somewhere in that range. And my friend Tyler, who told me what to buy, he also happened to tell me when to sell because he's like, hey, like this is time to get out. Like you're up. I mean, you know, you turn $20,000 into $1 million. Like
incredible.
I'm thinking my dumb monkey brain is like
2 million.
It's going to 2. I just need, you know, you're watching all these YouTube videos, all the influencers.
The fact that
like
you got to $1 million is a big.
It's crazy.
Yeah.
You know, and like I said, you get greedy. You're like, oh, I want more. I could do one more. And my buddy's like, sell right now. This is the time to get out. He's like, just trust me, you got to get out. And I was like, all right, fine. Like, fuck it, you know? So I sold. 3 weeks later, crashed, went to zero. Like not zero, but it dove. So basically I had this stockpile enough at the time when you're 25, 26 to like do something with it. So I never take a break. When my dad died, you know, I played baseball, never got to travel. I was work in college, went right into working. My dad died. So I literally never had a second to breathe. And I had like $1 million to my name. And I was like, I'm going to go, you know, fucking sit on a beach in Italy for like 2 months and quit my job and just like relax. I was like, just before I do that though, I'm going to call the guy at MELA and see if I can buy them, like what they would take.
And this is like how long after you met him to when you made that call? Yeah,
good question. This is probably maybe about a year, somewhere in that range.
So a year later, you call him up and you're like, hey, dude, remember me?
Yep.
And he's like, who?
So this is what's crazy. I'm calling this guy. He gave me his number. I can't get a hold of him. Texts are going green. They were blue. So I'm like, damn, did he like something bad happen or like
did he evaporate?
You know,
what's
I was
going
like,
on?
what's happening here? So I DM'd their Instagram, MELA's Instagram, and I was like, hey, here's who I am. Here's what I'm trying to get a hold of, blah, blah, blah. They're like, oh, he's traveling. He's abroad. Here's his WhatsApp or message him on WhatsApp. So long story short, I ended up acquiring MELA with crypto profits in US dollar coin.
USDT.
I actually never even bought
USDC.
the USDC. And I bought the company of MELA in crypto. I think it's probably public information, but I bought it for $350,000 in crypto.
You're telling me that there is a TX out there of you buying MELA. Basically,
What's a TX?
A TX is like a crypto transaction. Like we
Yeah,
can find the address and
I never thought
literally
about
you should
that.
frame that, by the way. You should find that transaction and frame that transaction.
And like when I bought it too, he didn't even know what crypto was, like the founder of MELA. So I had to show him like, hey, this is Coinbase. This is how you make an account. And he was living in Turkey or some other country at the time. So I paid him for the company.
350 USDC.
Yep. Might have been 360.
And what did he like? What did he actually give you in return? Like what was the actual trade?
Great question. They had no assets.
Right. Like what did you get for 350?
They didn't have a trademark even. They had nothing. So essentially what I bought, I could have very easily copied them, went to their manufacturer, ripped them off, like, and that's just not who I am. So it's like, I'm just going to pay you 350 just in good faith. Like, you know, and there was an element of like, I'm inheriting the knowledge of how to import products. So I basically paid for like a little bit of a playbook.
Did you like also acquire him a little bit to help support? Or it was just like, hey, dude, here's 350.
Yep. It was, hey, here's 350. I got it from here. Like there was like a week or two of him teaching me some of the shit. You know? Yeah. So I actually I didn't buy their business. I started my own. That's why like it's kind of convoluted. People say I'm like the founder of MELA. I'm really not. I'm the founder of like our corporation, so to speak. But I basically started my own corporation. Which we could get into.
What were the sales at the time? Like when you bought this business, like what, like just for people to get context, like 350K for what?
Great question.
Yeah.
That's why, you know, Spencer is a great guy. He's the founder of MELA. We still communicate here or there. I bought him for a 1x revenue. So they were doing,
doing about 350. You paid 350.
They were doing about 300. So a little over 1x, but exactly. They were doing about like 300,000 of revenue and I bought him for 350.
Yeah. Okay, so they had some traction. They had some people who obviously enjoyed the product. You knew, like, again, innovation through iteration. You knew that this was a product that was really good.
Yes.
You wanted to add the fire
and
to
it was good timing because, so if you guys remember, you know, 2020, when COVID hit, the shipping container prices went to astronomically high, right?
Crazy.
You guys were buying product from China, right?
Yeah, it was insane.
It went absurd. So they became significantly less profitable overnight. So that was another reason why, like, you know, people said maybe they made a bad deal. I don't think they really did. I think I got the business at a fair value.
Yeah.
And because the shipping container prices were like $20,000. It
was insane.
You know?
Yeah.
So that was another, I called up my buddy who was in international shipping and I said, hey, are these prices always going to stay like this high or this high? And he was like, no, give it a year. They'll go back down to normal, which they did.
Right.
So I just bought it right time, right place.
Where was the product being made at the time?
Vietnam.
Oh, so still.
Yeah.
That's amazing. So
I didn't change a thing.
So you just said, thank you very much. And then and how old were you at the time? You must have been what, 26, 27?
Yeah, somewhere in,
26, 27. You take 350K of crypto profits. You actually leave it in crypto. You literally transferred USDC into this guy's wallet. That must have been a nervous transaction. Like, did you get it? Did you get it?
I was like freaking the fuck out.
Did you get it? Yeah, I got it. Oh my God, thank God.
Crazy.
You know, because so nervous moving that volume of crypto. Now you have essentially a manufacturer that you can trust. You have a little bit of sales, enough sales to maybe get things going. What was your next move? You're like, hey, that's it. I'm going all in. This is it.
Yeah, good question. So as you remember, based on the math, I had like 500 grand left or 400 grand, something in that range, right? It was like I didn't make $1 million, but it was close. So 350 on the business. I was like, okay, first thing I got to do is change the branding. So that process takes a long time, right?
Yep.
You got to meet with designers and you got to design and then you got to actually send it to production. Then it's 3 months after that, right? So I got to work on changing design. So I knew I was going to change everything about it. So I didn't launch it anywhere new. You know what I mean? I was like, I kept the business the exact same, was making a little bit of money. And I spent 6 months like completely like planning, like injecting capital that I had left. You know, designers, hired one employee to help do operations, but then we technically, quote unquote, relaunched what MELA is to the world that they know now in March of 2022. So it's about a 6-month gap where I was just like changing everything, getting ready to relaunch.
Wow. And then once you relaunched, did it just take off? Or did you have a moment where you're like, what am I doing here?
Dude, from fucking day one, it was exploded.
Wow.
Day one. Because what happened with MELA is like, and that's why sometimes I'm like, shit, I shouldn't have sold, but
we'll get into that.
You know,
we'll get into that.
Is, you know, there's no competition. So it's like, you're not the 50th energy drink on a shelf. You're not the 30th water, you know, blah, blah, blah. It's like somehow still to this day, it's 2025 right now.
Yeah.
Somehow we got to fucking 2025 and no one has ever put watermelon juice in a can and put it in gas stations. Like, how the fuck, how did that happen? That's where I'm like, dude, it's just like, it's wild. So basically we had explosion from day one because every distributor we went to, every store we went to, there was no competition.
Wow.
So we were able to get distribution and get stores at a rate that was literally just a matter of how much capital do you have to hire enough team to go into stores. But outside of that, we pretty much never heard no, you know, especially from independent convenience stores, liquor stores all across the country.
And you went like right into that same strategy that you learned with like the Jerky company, where you're like, hey, great, new product. This one's mine. I'm going to load them up into the car. Were you driving around, knocking doors, making sales? Hey, take a case, put it on the shelf.
Yep.
Call me when it sells.
Yep. Literally. Like, you know, I had a few of the same contacts from the beef jerky, but I used those right away. And then everything else was just price discovery mode, like figuring it out as we went, you know. I probably, of the knowledge I have right now in CPG, you know, let's say it's 100%. It's not 100%. Like I'm just saying, let's say if I was at 100% right now, when I was with Baja Jerky, I probably had 10 to 20% knowledge. Right. So there's an 80% of the amount of things that I've learned, maybe 90 that I've learned since starting MELA. But just having that little bit of 10% was enough. So when I got going, I knew a little bit about what to do, you know?
Tell me a little bit about the sales. So you take this company 350, you know, you do the rebrand, you launch it, it takes off. You know, it's been, I guess, 4 years, right? That was your trajectory. What was, you know, tell me, like, just walk me through like what sales growth looked like from year to year. Was it just, you know, like for us, it was, you know, first year was 700K, then it was 10 million, then it was 25 million, then it was 50 million. Like we just, like, it was just insane. Was that similar for you, or did you have, you know, any moments where it clawed back, or was it just straight to the moon until?
Yeah, I would say it was the exact same as yours, except for the scalability wasn't as big, only because like in your business, it's more scalable, right?
Yeah. One distribution center, online ads.
If the product works, the brand works, like in your product, you can scale that quicker. With us, we basically did the beverage version of that. You know, we went from 300, the next year we did 1.6, then 5.6, then 9, and then, you know, like, so about, you know, the first couple of years was insane growth, you know, a couple 100%, and it starts to taper down, but it was like that the whole time.
And did you always know what the end of the story would look like for you, or did it kind of come out of nowhere where you're like, wait a second, I got an opportunity to take some chips off the table and sell this thing? Or was it like day one, we're going to build this, I'm going to sell it, and, you know, I'm going to have a moment that's going to be life-changing?
Yeah, it was definitely out of nowhere. We the company who acquired us, Calypso, they it was like a mutual thing. Like, I don't even remember who approached who first. We needed cash. So we like on a price round.
Right.
So I believe our head of sales, actually, he knew a counterpart there, reached out to them and was like, hey, would you guys be ever interested in investing? Or we just want to meet because we think you'd be a good acquirer one day. And they're like, funny enough, we're literally like looking to acquire a brand right now. So it's like very kind of mutual. I was not expecting to sell. Once again, got lucky. The reason I think I got lucky and why MELA is so great in general as well, and what I did, which, you know, I think there's always an element of luck and skill. I'm not saying it was like all luck, and I'm not saying that I didn't execute properly. But one of the things I got lucky at is at the time, I didn't know how rare it was to have a product in convenience. Every entrepreneur that comes out with a CPG brand, if you think about all the beverages that you know,
Costco,
blah blah blah
Sam's
blah blah,
Clubs,
they're too healthy. You know what I mean? which is great. I drink healthy products. I consume healthy products. Like I'm a consumer, right? So I'm not shitting on that. It's just that the guys like us right now, the entrepreneurs, the young entrepreneurs, they think let me create a product I would consume. So you do the math of that extrapolating between, you know what I mean? Who those people are, who those entrepreneurs are, the beverage founders, and what type of products they would consume. And all of them are healthy, very healthy. No calories, no sugar, this sweetener, etc. The thing about MELA is unhealthy people consume the product because it's loaded with sugar.
Yeah.
So the sugar comes from fruit. So you have healthy consumers, but because it's loaded with sugar, we could sit in a gas station and there's no innovation in gas stations. You know what I mean? If you go outside of energy drinks and probably like water, if you go into a gas station, like nobody is innovating in convenience stores. All their products are fitting in Whole Foods. They're all Whole Foods brands, Sprouts brands, right?
Target, Sprouts. Yeah.
Exactly. So that ended up being our huge competitive advantage. Was that truck drivers in Texas would slam a MELA. Pregnant moms in Hollywood would slam a MELA. We had a wide range of consumers, but mostly why we got acquired was because 99% of America actually drinks and eats like shit. You know what I mean? And so if you have products that are more for everybody, not just for a very healthy consumer, you open yourself up in America for a huge fucking customer base. And I think that's what the company who bought us saw. They're like, we could put this in a gas station in the hood. And we did. Like, we sold, one of our best accounts was in Compton, We also sold at the Del Mar in fucking San Diego.
Wow.
So you had this huge wide range, so that was,
I had an old mentor of mine actually passed away a few years ago. He used to own basically like a dollar store, but for clothing, like $1 t-shirts. The most was a $5 garment. And like, in fact, he had like, at one point, it was like one day a month. It was like a $9 suit. It was insane, dude. Like, this place was packed. And he put them in really like, struggling areas. And I remember always coming to him and saying, like, you can make like a sick brand, something sexy, that's niche, it's expensive. And I'll never forget at the time, I must have been only like 12 years old. So I didn't really understand it. But as I get older, it's like, it keeps coming back to me. It just came back to me now. He said, there's something about feeding the masses to eat with the classes. And at the time I was like, that's a very selfish thing of you, but now I get it. And that's what you're saying is like, how can we create something that is not so niche? We're not competing for this like small category of the market that will pay a stupid amount for a drink, or that'll pay $7 for a power or something, the normal 99.9% of the market that is looking for a better for you, convenient, don't really give a shit about the sugar. They know it comes from natural, it tastes good. Kind of like the Arizona tea in a way, No one really figures out what's in there. It's $1, scoop it, It's a very powerful, it's a no one's expecting like electrolytes in their Arizona tea,
Right.
But they sell, I think, billions of those things, right? And that's the truth.
Yep.
And it's such an important lesson for entrepreneurs to sometimes take the personal, what I want for me out of it, and look at the business holistically.
Right.
And which is hard to do.
It's very hard to
sometimes we just want to build stuff for ourselves.
Yeah, exactly. And like, I'm a consumer of, like I said, perfect balance. I consume MELA, I like MELA, but I can't drink a MELA every single day.
Right.
Because that's not who I am necessarily.
Right.
Right. I love the product. I could still drink it, but to your point, exactly, you kind of have to remove, what would Dom Purpura drink, or what would Aaron like?
Yeah.
And realize that could be a good business. It really could. There's products that will work in that, but what does most of America, what makes money? Not what you want to create sometimes. You know what I mean? This is just my experience. Everyone has a different experience. I'm not here to say like anybody does it wrong,
No, I think that's an authentic way of living. And I have these juice bars in Toronto, and they were more niche now. Now, as like more people get healthy and become more aware, like it's more for everybody in a way. But it was like back in 2011, 2012, we opened these things, and like juicing was crazy. Like, what vegetables? Like, everyone was tripping out, like $10 for a juice, and like smoothies without Minute Maid in it. And they're like, what? Like almond milk? Ew. Like, that's how it was when we started. And I remember actually, embarrassingly enough, I got into a fight with a customer, which I never do. Because I'm like, how could I fight a customer? But he was fighting me on something. And again, it's one of those moments that it took like a decade, that was over 10 years ago, to realize he was right. And there was a customer in front of that customer, and she was fighting about the dates, you know? So there was 3 dates in the smoothie, and she was like, well, the dates, I need to see the size of the date, because if it's a bigger date, it has more sugar, and I want to make sure that it has a specific date. If it's a medjool date, give me half a date. And I looked at it, I was like, it's 3 dates. Like, you know, I was like, we were going back and forth, and I ended up saying, you know what, no dates in your smoothie. How about that, you know? And I made it no dates, and she left. And he came to me and he goes, why didn't you just do what she wanted? And like, in hindsight, he was right. But the next thing he said, he goes, you know, a lot of people will come here, they'll bust your balls on the date, and they'll go home and they'll slam a cheese pizza.
Right. Right, bro.
You know, because sometimes that's just who we are as humans.
Right.
You know, like some days I'm going to be unhealthy, and some days I'm going to go to the Starbucks girl and be like, how much grams of sugar is in that? It's meanwhile, I'm slamming, bro, you know,
I saw this
deep fried chicken fingers,
dude,
you know.
so right. Like, I saw this girl's Instagram reel the other day, had like millions of views. And she was in a grocery store saying like, don't eat this, these seed oils, these. And I fundamentally agree with everything she fucking said.
Yeah.
But her comments, bro, changed my life, because I'm like, all these comments were roasting her, and they were so right. Yeah. She had fake boobs. She had a shitload of lip filler in. It's like, you're injecting yourself with, you're putting foreign objects literally in your body 24/7, and you're worried about a fucking seed oil on a grape. Or like a pesticide on a grape. I'm like, you got, you know, it's like, so it's kind of funny how we have these things that, you know, like these, I don't know how to describe it, these 2 varying viewpoints.
Yeah,
so
it's but it's cool that you were able to authentically live that out and know like, hey, I'll have a MELA from time to time. Just the type of person that I am is not going to have it every day. But it's okay if everybody has a MELA. If all of America has a MELA from time to time, this is amazing.
Exactly.
And like that level of authenticity is so important. And when we had Jay Carl's on, who's also in CBG, like, be unapologetically authentic. It's just so important. Just to like know who you are. And it was like in that moment, like we just started the business, and I was like, you know what, dude, like, you're right. I'm trying to like just push my values onto people. You want to be super healthy in this moment. You want to go to Whole Foods and read every label because it's fun for you. And then you go, to the clubs on Saturday. I got no judgment. Live that. And I know that, and I can build a business off that. It's something that's super important, because sometimes we do get lost in the sauce. We believe that every one of our customers only lives a certain way, and it's extremely dangerous. Yeah. And that's super magical. I want to do a quick pivot, because I do want to come back to the acquisition. So for those of you listening, there's a beautiful acquisition, and we're going to push it out a little bit.
Sure. Yeah.
I want to bring it back to, you know, the foundation of Dom, like who you are, who really built you. You know, you've mentioned a few things a few times. You mentioned that you've had 2 father figures. You know, you've had your dad. You mentioned like a single mom in an area, like his smallest house, and in a bigger area, your uncle. You mentioned, you know, your dad passing. These are really big deals. This is what shapes a human. And I'm just curious, how did that all affect you? You know, what was there, you know, your relationship with your dad, how did that shape you? I always say a man, you know, is built on the relationship with his father. But in your case, like, you know, your mom was obviously a huge prominent in who you are today, you are today. So just kind of just like describe that for me, because a lot of people listening, you'll be surprised, have very similar paths and journeys. And I think entrepreneurs are built on sometimes the pain in our youth.
Well, you have fantastic questions. You are fucking incredible. So one thing I realized about where I grew up is the middle class is probably the worst class to grow up in to become successful. You know, I'm stereotyping. And the reason is because you're comfortable enough to not be hungry, but your parents and the people you're around, especially your father figures, they don't have the knowledge to show you the perspective of money and time that it takes to be very successful. So you're in this weird gap of like, you know what I mean? Like, you're not that back against the wall mentality, because you always have food on the table. Your dad and mom love you. You know, that's why people that come from nothing are very successful sometimes. And people who obviously come from money are successful just because that's a knowledge of perception of time and money, right? So one of the most pivotal pieces of my journey was actually when my dad died. And it was really because I lost my plan B. And so when I look, I love my dad so much. He was he was the greatest man ever. My mom is unbelievably.
How old were you when he passed?
23.
Wow.
Which was a pivotal time as a man where you're trying to figure shit out, right?
Wow. And was it like sudden and unexpected? Or?
Yeah. Like he passed away of liver cancer and I knew it was coming. So I had about a month. Once again, perspective, like,
wow,
could have been worse. You know, some people don't get to say bye. And I knew it was coming. So I got those moments with him in that time. And after he passed away, you know, I coming from middle class, right? You always have that plan B to go back to. And if you're watching this and you're in a situation, you know, that's why Aaron cold plunges and saunas and does all these things and most successful people do. It's because they're artificially creating a back against the wall mentality for themselves sometimes. And they're putting themselves in hard positions on purpose because they know it's going to make them better. Some people are born in an environment where they have nothing and come from nothing. And so they're born with that. I had too much like comfortability, I realized, but I had the right amount to like make me a good person. I'm very respectful, very loyal to my friends. But when my dad passed away, that was like the final thing that was like, I got no plan B. I'm fucking going all in. If I literally do not succeed, I will die. And I felt like looking back at my early entrepreneurial life, most of the things I gave up on, if hardship were to arise to a small extent, you know, being an athlete, I didn't really like give up, but like, I just realized I didn't have that like little bit of edge that it took to
that
like
killer instinct.
Yeah. Get over that fucking edge. Right.
Right.
I would kind of like back up a little bit because I had my mom and my dad and they were the fucking greatest parents ever. Right. So anyway, and then my mom is an amazing, as you can imagine.
You know, speaking to so many entrepreneurs, you know, I always find that there's like a few moments. You always had a few moments that were like, wow, like checkpoints. Like, I need to get going. I need to get going. You know, I need to start the car, go into sport mode, take over, you know? And I would say that it sounds like one of those. Like one of them was for me was, you know, when my dad had a stroke, it was like, oh, wait, I gotta get going. Like, you know, like it's almost like I was playing the casino with the free chips and now it just became my money, you know, and it became the family's money. It's like, wait a second, you know, and that's when things get real. But there's another thing that happens, and I'm curious if this happened for you, is when you harden, because that hardens you, right? At 23, like that's no joke. 23 is, as a man,
dude,
that's no joke.
It's crazy.
What emotions did you not allow yourself to feel in that moment? You know, because looking back, it took me like over 10 years to feel, you know, my dad's stroke. I used to actually talk about it very lightly. Like, yeah, you know, my dad has a stroke and I started a business, we made $1 million. It was all good. That's how I would say.
Yeah.
But the truth is, I didn't have space to feel. And I'm curious, you know, what emotions do you feel that you had to kind of stuff away to become this man with no plan B?
Never victim mentality. That's for sure. I mean, you have elements of it. Every person does who goes through hardship. You have a why me moment or a victim mentality, but I never let that drive become who I was. And I also like took it fucking just day by day. Like I was like, I don't have to worry about 2 days from now or tomorrow. It's not here yet. Yesterday's gone. So like just focus on tomorrow. And like when you condense a huge roadmap of who you want to become or a business you want to build into just what actionable steps you have to do that day, that fundamentally, when you extrapolate it, right, you then become that person. So to answer your really question is the victim mentality, I never really allowed it to happen. And I stayed really busy. I had a great support system with my friends. I lived with my buddy. He let me sleep on an air mattress next to him for a year straight.
Wow.
So my friends really came together to support me a lot. I had a great, family situation where they just like helped me. So yeah, to answer your question, just took it day by day, really. And it just was trying to be the best version of myself, every single day. And then,
That's super powerful. Now, 4 years, jumping back to MELA, just 4 years, you complete the acquisition. Are you allowed to share the numbers?
It's in the 8 figures. I can't share the amount.
Right. So you share it, you sell it for 8 figures.
Multiple 8 figures.
Made a lot of money.
Yeah,
and correct me if I'm wrong, but if I get this right, I remember we last spoke. You shared a lot of it with the people in your company.
Yeah.
And where did that, come from? I speak about this pretty openly all the time. Leo and I didn't. To be honest, it was a little bit of being naive. We didn't know any better. We had a bunch of people quit after the acquisition, and we're like, "Why are you guys all quitting?" It's like, "What's going on?" I thought we were a family, and it's like, "Yeah, well, family doesn't just 2 people make money." So something that I'm obviously changing and have implemented into the new businesses. But where did that come from for you, and why was that so important?
That came from sports. That came from you're on a team, and everybody should share that W when you get a win or a loss, right? It's like I was a pitcher, so I had the ball, and all the attention was on me. Like when I won a game, right? Everyone's like, "Oh, congrats, Dom, you did great." And I was like, "Yeah, I won the fucking game. I gave up 2 runs, but my team scored 3. That's why we won the fucking game." Right? I didn't win the game. You have to score more points, right? So my point is I think that moved over to business very well, where I made mistakes, right? I gave equity to the wrong people, or those are the dumb mistakes. But the fundamental element of my mindset was correct, which is if you want, I truly believe this. I'm like, if you want to build a great team, you have to give other people a vehicle to make their own success. And that takes a lot of pressure off you as a founder, where you don't have to micromanage. Because if they're not doing their job, if they're cutting corners, if they're not working hard, in reality, they're only fucking themselves, and they're only fucking the teammates, their counterparts, because it creates an accountability. If everybody has equity or a piece, right? And as you get bigger, those pieces get smaller, right? But like core members, right? If everyone has a piece, they take accountability for each other, they work together better, and they work harder without me having to micromanage. And they do something for themselves rather than just for me. They're trying to make their piece as large as possible. So that's my mindset. And I do love that mentality.
And now you're 100% out, and you got a bunch of money in your pocket. How are you navigating who you are now? Because the Dom of today is not 23-year-old Dom, not 25-year-old, not 27, 28-year-old. You're 31 now. And you've experienced a life-changing event, one that many entrepreneurs, probably all, strive to achieve one day. It's actually probably why a lot of people are listening to this. What do you say to yourself now? I mean, it was like a month ago?
Yeah.
How are you navigating post, fresh off of post exit?
Great question. I'm in that learning phase right now. As Aaron knows, it's just happened maybe 3 weeks ago, essentially.
Wow.
It's a very weird feeling, right? It's also a feeling of like, shit, I put my whole identity into making millions of dollars. Now I've done it. Like everything, breathe, sleep, eat has been about making
Did the money
millions.
hit the bank?
Yeah.
Okay, good.
So now I have it. Now I'm like, fuck, dude. Like, like what is my identity now? What is my goal? I think an element of enjoying yourself and relaxing is fine, but I've been drinking a lot. I've been going out a lot. I haven't been spending a ton of money or anything, just more enjoying myself. But the problem is it's like I'm in flux trying to figure that out, right? Of what does the next chapter look like for me? And outside of even money is like, as a person, like what does it change? What do I not want to change? Like I said, I grew up in a great environment with a lot of great people around me, which is really, really good. So I don't feel pressure to do anything crazy or spend anything crazy. I don't need a fucking, like we were talking about earlier. I could buy a lot of Lamborghinis. I didn't rush to get a Lamborghini or a watch. I still have, like, I went to the mall the other day and like I see you have a David Yurman chain on. I was literally going to buy probably the exact same David Yurman chain, like something like that. And it was 10 grand. And I still was like, I didn't buy it. Good. I told them
this is a gift for people wondering.
I told David Yurman, I was like, oh, I'll be back tomorrow to buy it. And I'm like, I'm not fucking buying. Like, what do I need a $10,000 chain for? So it's funny how, but I like jewelry, right? So I'm going to get another piece of jewelry for $10,000. I'm just saying, like, I'm in that mode right now where I'm trying to navigate. I'm trying to navigate where to put your money. You know, that's a huge piece, right? There's a piece of you that goes, oh, fuck, Bitcoin's at $80,000 right now. Pretty good time to buy. Like we were texting about, you know what I mean? And then there's another piece of me that's like, I don't even own a house. So should I buy a house?
Grow up quick.
So we're trying to figure it all out. There's a lot
when I had our acquisition, I had a piece of advice that a mentor of mine, like not even a real mentor, just I don't even think he knows he's my mentor, but I go to him from time to time. And I listened to him 80%. And the 20% that I didn't listen to him, in hindsight, 4 years later, costed me some money. So I'll share it with you. And for anyone else that's listening, it's the most simple advice ever. And that's why I didn't take it seriously, because he said it to me so quickly and then he like moved on. And it was funny because he followed up with me 2-3 hours later and he's like, hey, like, did you listen to me? And I was like, like almost 100% yes. And he said, for the next 120 days, so essentially 4 months, you are not allowed to spend more than $49,000 on anything. Just not a lot. Like at once, which means probably no cars, which means no houses, which means if you're going to invest into something, it's not going to be a crazy investment. If you're going to buy Bitcoin, you get to buy half of one, you know, like you're going to buy ETH, you're going to buy X amount, like whatever it is, you can't put, you can deploy 50 into a couple things, but never into more than one. And I didn't understand it at the time. And looking back, everything that I did above that was just such a nonsensical decision. And not that I have regrets because I learned, but it was expensive lessons. And everything I listened to him on was genius. And it was just something that I wish I can scream for the rooftops to every entrepreneur, because you put so much pressure on yourself. You know, I did what you did. You said you went into the groceries, like into the store and didn't buy a Yurman chain. I panicked and moved home to my mom's basements for 6 months. I'm like, I'm not going to spend anything.
Yeah. Because you're like, I want to keep it now.
I freaked out, you know? I'm like, I'm not going to do anything. No one can touch my money, you know? And then that was also a bad decision because I like became so small. Then I ended up going like to the other side of the pendulum. I'm like, fuck it. I'm going to buy a car. I'm going to get a house. I'm going to get this, you know? Like, so what I wish I would have done, and again, I did this half or 80%, and you can do as you wish, which is take like 120 days. And every time you want to do something, make a list. You know, I want to buy a house. Okay, that's cool. You should. All right, I want to do this. I want to buy that. And then in 120 days from now, you're going to sit there and actually, now when the dust is settled, you feel comfortable with it. You can actually sit down and look at the list and be like, all right, house I want, Lambo, maybe not, or maybe yes, you know, this. And then you start to really just sit with that decision. That was the best thing ever, you know? Like for me, it was like, I knew I wanted a house in Miami, but if I would have panicked at the time, first of all, I would have paid a lot more, because back in 21 and Miami's still expensive, but it was like even more expensive. And so I ended up saving a ton of money.
What was your process from your more entrepreneurial side where, you know, you put this win on the board, you got your money, you're having this, this life altering kind of situation happen. When did you jump back in?
Slowly.
You know,
slowly. I actually wish I took more time. I took like probably 6 months. I wish I took more time. And again, I didn't listen to the people. Like I had a friend of mine sold many people, you know, and that's the benefit of the Founders Club. I was able to tap into a bunch of people within the community, and every single one was like, dude, don't do anything for 6 months. Don't do anything for 8 months.
Yeah, because I feel like I want to go again.
You just want to go. It's like your identity in a way, like, you know, the Dom that started MELA is actually not sitting with me here today. That Dom is gone. Just like you're not sitting here with Aaron from Hush. You're totally not. He would look different, be acting different. He's a completely different human being. You, I wish I spent, I mean, I had to go do 4 nights of ayahuasca to actually do this, but you need to just honor that version of yourself. Like you kind of said it earlier in this podcast, like I'm happy of all the shit I went through because it's who I am today. You got to take a minute and honor that. Like young Dom went through shit, you know, death in the family and school and sports. And I'm sure there was letdowns in sports, and there's business, and there's friends, and there's couches, and there's crypt. Like there's so much shit that had to happen for you to be who you are today. And you love who you are today, but it's almost like you need to just like take a minute and honor that and be like, yo, let me just give respect to what I've done and who I am. And not forever. You're not going to sit here and retire at 31. I mean, you wouldn't be able to, even if you tried, you know? And I'm sure you have a million ideas, and you have another business ready to go, and you have another business ready to go, and you want to invest, and you want to support other people, and you want to give back, and you want to coach, and you're like a flower. Everything. You want to do it all. And there's so much opportunity, and people want to be around you, right? Because, you know, I forget which rule in the 48 laws of power, but, you know, never be around the unhappy and the unlucky, but always be around the lucky and happy. You're lucky and happy right now. People want to be around you. All that's great. Don't do what I did and go into a basement, but just take everything slow. And the slower you go, the happier you'll be. And don't forget to just honor. I know, do the party, do all that stuff, and actually just sit and just fucking like I thank God for breath work. Like every day I would do breath work 10 minutes. And like sometimes I would cry and be like, fuck, man, if 20-year-old Aaron knew who 30-year-old Aaron is, he'd be so fucking happy. Like if 20, like I knew, but I didn't know. But like if 21-year-old knew, he would, like, you know, he would be able to look up and be like, fuck yeah. You got to give yourself that credit, because to do what you've done, I mean, you're in the Founders Club. There's hundreds of amazing founders that want to do it. Very few have. It's so fucking rare. It's so special. You took it and you earned every ounce of it. You said the word luck many times. Yeah, part of it. But who the fuck else puts money in Cardano and wastes inheritance money and doesn't get down and depressed and then listens to their friends and then like buys a business that they met? Like no one does that. No one fucking does that. I've never heard of this before in my entire life. I speak to him, you know, you got to honor that version of you. And that's the magic, dude. And whatever you're going to do next is irrelevant, because this is V whatever, V5, V10, V a million. It doesn't matter. This version of Dom is like, it's a new age. You're 31. It's like for me, like I had to honor my whole 20s. You know, I never did that. From 18 till 30, I was blinders on. Didn't know nothing else other than getting shit done. I was a monster, but I had to be. I'm not anymore. Now I'm like soft and nice to people. But that's who it had to be. And I'm sure you kind of, you know, you're in that 30 day, it's like super, super fresh, but I'm sure you're starting to feel that, you know, like sometimes you probably just like sit by yourself and like, I don't know, like do you like look around and be like, Dom, do you believe this shit? Like,
yeah, I do if I have a couple glasses of wine.
Yeah, because you got to get the vulnerability going.
Yeah. It's tough because my sober self is more go. It's always the next. You know, I'm like Tom Brady. Tom Brady's like, oh, what's your favorite Super Bowl ring? He's like, the next one. That's the sickness, right? It's a disease, and it's a curse, and it's a blessing. Is the anxiety of wanting more. And you have to be able to balance. Wanting more is great. and it's what's going to drive both of us and drives many people to be successful. But exactly right. Having that balance to also, when you get it or you accomplish something, relax.
Yeah.
And that's what I'm learning right now is like that relaxation.
Because you're not doing it for money. Because if you did it for money, you would have went and you would have bought some shit.
Exactly.
You're doing it for a feeling.
Yeah.
The question is, what feeling are you chasing, and why hasn't this success necessarily satisfied that feeling fully?
Yeah. I don't know, but it hasn't. It did for a day.
That's the work.
That is,
that's the work, because, you know, there's a lot of feelings. It might not just be one, but it's typically a feeling that we inherit in our youth. And for me, my feeling was security. I never felt secure. You know, money, I grew up lower middle class at best. My friends always had the best hockey sticks. I didn't. My friends always had the new skates. I didn't, you know. I didn't even know my parents, you know, took their retirement fund to put me in hockey. Like, I didn't even know how bad it was when it was bad, you know? And I kept saying to myself, like, I will never have money issues. I will never have money issues. You know, even when I was like 15, I found old journals in my mom's basement. Like, I would just write it over again. Like I was in trouble in school, you know, and they make you write the same thing. Like, I won't do this. I won't pee in the stairwell. I won't pee in the stairwell, you know? And I would write, I will not fucking be broke. I will not fucking be broke. I was 15, dude, you know, because of that. That's how much pain it was. And that was the feeling. And then I finally was not broke. And then I lost all motivation to work because I felt I got the feeling, and I had to rediscover who I am. And now I have a, you know, whole new mission to, you know, build what I think is what every founder needs, is other founders around them, like-minded individuals. Because, you know, there's going to be people in your life, and I'm sure, I don't know, actually, I'm curious if you got this already, okay? Whether you've realized it or not, there's moments of sadness in this joy. There's moments of sadness. And also, you lost your baby in a way. There's moments of sadness. There's grief.
Yeah, definitely. It's like a breakup.
I would go to people and say, you know, they're like, oh, how's post-acquisition life? I say, I kind of fucking miss it, man. I follow them on social and I miss it. And they're like, what are you talking about? You made millions of dollars, man. You should be happy. What's wrong with you? You know, another founder would never say that to you because they get it.
Yeah.
You know, like I would never say that to you because I'm like more like, how is the grief, bro?
Like how many employees when you guys sold did you have?
I think like probably 30.
Okay. Basically us too.
Yeah. Maybe 30, and then partners and agencies and so many people we worked with.
Like what I miss, and I've seen your videos.
Yeah.
I miss those early days. Those, even a team of like 2, 3, 4, 5, you know, I fucking love those early days. Like I saw like you had those videos of like, I can't even imagine all the things. I know you have volumes of it, but like packing your own orders or labeling your own shit. Like, thank God I had a little couple videos like me loading my own pallet on a U-Haul to save $500 instead of shipping a product to San Diego. I went and fucking did it myself. Like, like those are the days I miss. And I think that that's another reason why I decided to sell, because it got to the point too where we were hiring employees I had never met. I didn't even have their phone number. I had no desire to necessarily meet them and hang out with them. Not that they were bad people, just because I was so fucking busy. I'm like, I have people that are on my payroll that I don't even know. Like, that's when I was like, that's not me. Like, I'm not built to run, at least that phase. Maybe the next one's different. I wasn't built to run a team of 200 people, you know? So that's another reason why I sold. But like looking back at it, like, I'm like, oh my God, like,
it's the magic, and it's finding the feelings that it's, you know, we chase the feelings, and it's not to you know, to get acquainted with the feelings is not to avoid them. You know, it's not just like, oh, okay, now I know that I want to be admired, or that I want to feel valued, or I need security, or whatever it is, or I want to be able to support it. Doesn't mean I stop. It just becomes a superpower once you're aware, right? Like, why is there an itch to start something right away? Like, what is it? I'll still start something.
Yeah.
It's not that I'm not trying to get away from it, but I just want to make sure I understand it so that it comes from a good place and that it's breeding something beautiful and something authentic, which is really important. And I'm not running away from something.
Right. What's been your vision with the Founders Club and
Yeah.
I've heard a lot of why you started it and where do you want to take it? Because, you've done a fantastic job. Obviously, I'm a member. I joined 2 months ago, and I remember I texted, Aaron and Chris, and I was like, I'm going to send you the money. I'm going to join this, but leave me the fuck alone for like 2 months. Like, I'm not even in the Slack. Like, I don't have the like, I haven't like done anything. I haven't been able to come to events, but anyway, like you've done a absolutely incredible job. It's something I've been very proud to share with other people because you guys have done such a fucking fantastic job and you pay attention to the details so well that I, as a member, can't help but share that with other people. Everything from like the dinners, how you run it. There's no expectation of like getting anything from anybody. I got a package at my house the other day. It was like a bunch of Saratoga water and fake bananas. Like when the trend was happening and you guys wrote a note just saying blah, 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 blah. Like it's such a great community to be a part of. And I know what I've noticed about you guys too, is you guys are going a million miles an hour. You got the podcast now, just, your version of the podcast, but you're launching in this city, that city, that city. Yeah. So like, what is your vision really for like the Founders Club? Like, where is it going to go? What is it going to be?
I think what we're building is the new version of YPO.
Okay.
YPO has been around like 75 or 100 years. I think it's like 15 to 70% of the world's GDP. A lot of what is going on within that incredible community is like second, third, fourth generation.
That's
businesses
Young
now.
Entrepreneurs Club,
It's
right?
a Young Presidents organization or something like that. It's a really fantastic organization. But what I think what we're building is a little bit of the modern version of the founders and entrepreneurs of today. Everything I just shared with you is from my own personal experience. And some of it will relate to you and relate to the people listening to this. And then you'll be able to take away parts of it and apply it to yourself, which is what we're supposed to do. I found my M&A lawyer on a Google search, dude. I was 25 when I sold my business. I didn't know shit. I didn't know a single person that sold their company. At the time, it was the third largest D2C transaction in Canadian history. I was on BNN and shit, dude. I didn't know anything. And a lot of that was, 25. You're not supposed to know anything. But that's bullshit. Every other modality in life has community. You want to be a mixed martial artist? There's a community for that. You want to be a spiritual guru? There's communities for that. You want to be yoga? Go do yoga. There's community. You like religion? There's communities for that. There's community for everything in this life. But for whatever reason, founders have to be alone.
Yeah, and there's founders clubs, but they don't touch the system that you guys have put together.
Because
like there's like little like city stuff. Yeah, you know what I mean? But like you guys have just really like you deep dove into like, if I was a founder, depending on the level, etc., what would I need? And like you guys are really building that in real time. It's really impressive to watch. You guys are executing at an incredible level. Even the brand like you built is beautiful.
Yeah.
And
I appreciate that.
You're paying attention to the details and you have a great team behind you, even like producing these and I don't know. I just think you're doing a fantastic job too, bro. Like you should be really happy.
I appreciate that. We're in a year and a half in and it's been such an incredible journey, but and also like founders need different things at different times. That's the hard part.
And what I've learned about the Founders Club is it's not like being a Founders Club member. It's not what you can gain. It's what you can save money and time. It's like you don't join the Founders Club because some fucking dude's going to invest in your company. But that could happen. And that's beautiful if it does very naturally. But like what I've realized is like, you could meet a guy who literally will give you a tip that will save you fucking $200,000 a year. Last week I lost $150,000, $200,000 like that from a mistake I made with MELA.
Yeah.
We're in escrow still. So although, a piece of our buyout's in escrow, right? So if anything happens in, a year, it gets deducted, right? Yeah. So I lost $200,000 on a mistake that we made a long time ago. Our UPC barcode was wrong on our cans, printed cans, right? Now I have to pay the bill to rectify the situation. Anyway, my point is like, that's like those type of things is what the Founders Club will save you, And that's why it's like, I'm a member. I'll always be a member. I'm happy to. And another good reason you put this together is founders, true founders, people who build business. They don't need anything from anybody, so they love sharing experiences. Which is, I love to do that too. I love to help someone be like, you should do this or don't do this.
What you just said is the ethos of everything. Right? The ethos is, and this is funny, so I'm giving it away if you're listening to this and want to apply, is we have a trick question on application. Is we wait essentially and we say, you know, what are you looking to get out of it? And when people are coming in like, oh, I want to get out, they have a laundry list. I want to get this, and I want to get that, and I want to get that. And you know,
I put nothing. I remember I put nothing.
Exactly. And that's the secret. The secret is a beautiful relationship, both in your intimate life, in your family, in your business, and your employees, is one that is consistently equal part giving and taking. Sometimes we give more and sometimes we give less, and et cetera. We take more, but over enough time, it should be equal. Otherwise, like we don't like people who constantly take from us, and we don't want to be the person that constantly takes from others.
Yes.
So a lot of us are like, hey, what can you give to the community? Why would you be a valuable member? And if everyone operates that way and we give first and don't have crazy expectations, what we find is a natural, authentic community that's constantly helping each other. You know, we had the one guy won the Mr. Beast commercial from Shopify, right? Like that's insane. I don't even know what the economic value of a Mr. Beast commercial. He had a week to like do this commercial.
Wow.
He leveraged the community. We came up with a whole plan on how to take the leads, and so he leveraged 20 other people, and we were all excited to spend 2-3 hours with him because like what an amazing opportunity to like be a part of and to learn from others and to take things away for our own business. It's things like that. And then the one stat we do not share, but I'll share it with this, is we send out a survey every 6 months, and it's got a zero, like just a box, and you can put in any number. And we say, if you had to determine the economic value of the last 6 months, what would it be? You could put it $0, $10. Blew my mind. And it's a living number because every day we have a new submission, you know, and it hasn't dipped below $80,000, which is crazy, right? It's like, it's from just a community of surrounding yourself with like-minded people. So that's the real goal. The real goal is to build something that I never had. And then the secret goal behind it all, which is another share I'll give, is I want to do this for the next 30, 40, 50 years. Think about how cool it's going to be, Dom, when like in 30 years from now, like this thing, like in 20 years from now, everyone you know when you meet your circle is going to be at the best of they're ever going to be. Like think about who you're going to be in 20 years from now. You're going to be a monster. You're going to be like, 20 years ago, I sold that company and then I did this, and I did that. And like everyone you know is going to be at the top of their game.
Yeah.
That's the beauty of life. And that's what we're creating. We're creating a community where you know everyone, and you can go to LA and meet the right people, and you can go to freaking Dubai and meet the right people.
100%.
And we just had this incredible tax specialist that personally saved me 150 grand on my tax bill.
Yeah.
Just with one piece of advice. He's like, yo, do you know this like Augusta rule where you can rent your house to yourself? I'm like, I didn't know that shit.
Right.
What? Call my accountant. He's like, yeah. And I'm like, wow, that call just made me like 6 figs. Are you kidding?
Bro.
So it comes in so many different ways and so many different journeys. And that should be the expectation. Obviously, you know, we got to watch. I remember you were like, I'm going to sell this thing. And I was like, he's going to sell this thing. And Ann Mallon did the same thing to me. She came to our dinner like years ago in New York. I was like, what do you do? She goes, I run Solid Core. I was like, that sounds good. You got a lot of locations. She's like, you bet 100. I was like, wow, you going to sell it? She's like, yep. I was like, when? She's like, I'm going to sell for a lot of money. I'm like, what's a lot of money? She's like, I'm going to get $100 million. I was there. I was like, I don't know. I've never heard of Solid Core before at the time. And I was like, I don't know what is going on, but that woman's going to do that. She's going to do exactly what she said. And lo and behold, I think it was like, 12 months later, send me a text. She goes, remember what I said? Boom, headline, 9-figure acquisition.
Holy shit.
That's the type of people you want to be around, you know? And
it is.
Like for me, I was like, that is so inspiring. Speak it into existence, live it out. You did the same thing. And I remember telling Chris, I'm like, I didn't even have a MELA yet. And I'm like, that guy is gonna fucking sell that business because like you believed in it. It was who you are.
You're paying, the access to information you get is like you pay $100,000 to go to USC college.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't even go to high school, so I don't know.
Exactly. But like people pay for college, and it's like, dude, the information and the access you get, at least in the Founders Club, is like, dude,
it's insane.
It is.
It's an absolute cheat code. If you can get in, I would get in. Okay, so one last question.
Sure.
This is the question I ask every single podcast. And based on our reviews, it's the question everyone likes the most.
Okay.
Okay, here we go. You get to flash back to a younger version of yourself. Picture just little Dom. When you answer, just share what age you go to. So when I say little Dom, like how old is little Dom in your head? And if he was sitting right here in front of us at the table, what is one thing you would tell him? So how old is Dom you're picturing, and one thing you would tell him?
I would say I'm not that young. I'd be 23. When my dad passed away, I was in a relationship. I thought I was going to marry that girl. Broke up at the exact same time. And that was the lowest point of my life by a landslide. So younger version of me, 23. I would tell him that what you're doing is and will work. And your heart is leading you in the right direction. You know, because with younger version of you, you're following your heart and you're following a moral compass that you don't know if it's going to work or not. So I'm like I said, very proud of myself, my former self, to be the man who I used to be. And I'm still the same man I have been when I was 23. I'm still the same guy as I was 23. And I was still doing the same things as 23 as I'm doing today. So I would just really look at the guy who was broken beyond a measurable doubt, like beyond fathom. Like I cannot even fucking fathom who I was then, and just tell him that to keep going and everything's going to be fine, you know? And I always knew it would because I was following my compass.
Yeah.
But I'm very happy it happened, obviously, you know?
Dude, that's very powerful. And to have the awareness to follow your heart is, I think, what I wish for everybody, to be able to live life through their heart. It's so hard to do.
It is, yeah.
And so many of the amazing entrepreneurs that we have on the podcast, but more importantly that we get to meet. I always say, like, the one thing I love speaking at conferences because I get to meet everyone after. And you know, I was not really given so much IQ in my genes, but I was given a ton of EQ. I can really feel people really quickly. Yeah. And within like a couple minutes, you can feel if someone is connected to their heart, you know? And it's like a weird feeling, but it's magical. And it makes you just want to connect with that person. I always ask myself when I leave a conference, I just met 100 people, but why did I only get 3 or 4 of their numbers? It used to bother me. I'm like, why is that not nice? I should connect with all of them. That's what I used to say. And I realized there's something about when someone is authentic and they live out their heart, we connect further. And it's like always those 3 or 4 people. It's like, you know what? I vibe with them within this small interaction because of their heart. And I think it's a reason of why we vibe so quickly. And I also think it's a reason why you're able to generate so much success through pain, because instead of shutting down your heart and burying it under a bus somewhere, you leaned into it. It's a very, very powerful thing. I hope that everyone who's listening to this replays that moment like 4 or 5 times. Yeah, we should make a clip of this. Yeah, because that moment right there is the sauce, and it's so hard to do. Like you just said it as if, you know, I listened to my heart and I followed it. You made it sound easy, but it is so hard to do that
because you're going to be alone. You're not going to have the answer. And I think more times than not, your gut is telling you what's right or wrong in that moment. And people listen to outside noise more than just like, remember that not everybody who's telling you something knows the right answer. So what does your gut tell you? Combo that with what you hear, you know, because there's a lot of people that will give you advice on a lot of different things, but also remember, like, is that person who's giving you advice where you want to be? You know,
have they done what you want to do?
Exactly. And if they're not there, take the advice, listen, always listen, but remember that it might not be right. you know, and vice versa too, right? I think that that's really important, is just gathering information. Like you said, you listen to a mentor and you took 80% of it and 20 you didn't.
I wish I took the 100.
And maybe and maybe even at that time you didn't take the 20, but your gut was telling you the whole time that 100% of what he was saying was fucking true.
Oh, the degen in me just wanted the action, but I knew. Yeah.
And that's okay. You know, it's okay.
We live and we learn. I needed to learn, you know, like our patterns repeat. The lessons we don't learn, the things we don't listen to, they just keep coming back.
Yeah.
And they will continue to come back until we find awareness and we say, wait, I had to do that. You know, I had to literally lose a ton of money, get burned many, many times until I had like finally like hit me one day. And I was like, yo, I'm done. I'm not doing this anymore. I'm not doing those deals. I don't do these deals. Now they come to me still, you know, I get tested. I was like, I don't do it anymore. Like, it's just not in my, I've never been an addict, but I can only imagine, you know, I have a lot of friends that used to be addicts and stuff like that. And it's like, it's just, they're done with it. Like so much pain. And then there's like a certain point where they're just like, no, like no interest. So I'm done with it. And I feel like that sometimes needs to happen to us. It's tough to listen sometimes.
Well, before we go to, I have a quote that
leave us with some magic. Let this be the finishing thought.
I have a quote that defines,
Wait, say it from the beginning so we get the clip. I have a quote.
So I have a quote that really defines a lot of my life looking backwards. And I heard it recently, and hindsight's 2020, but the quote goes, I asked God for flowers and he's giving me rain. And as soon as you understand that perspective of what's coming in the future, your whole life will change, right? Because you're constantly going to be in these moments where negative things are happening to you. And if you can remember that it's supposed to rain to get flowers afterwards, you'll realize in that moment that those hardships like won't destroy you. They'll empower you and make you stronger so that once the rain is over, beautiful things will happen. And that's something I feel like every entrepreneur, every person in life needs to remember, that things don't happen to you. They're really happening for you, and it will make you stronger in the long run. So
dude, that is freaking, look at Ned. That is nut. When Ned gives you the nod, that's how you know he's vibing. And
so true, bro.
I forget which clip I saw.
Think of all the hard shit you've gone through in your life, bro.
I forget which clip I saw. It's like, I'm gonna butcher this, but it's okay. We're at the end. There's no nobility in. I'm gonna butcher this, but I'm gonna explain it at least. Someone who says, you know, oh, I don't do confrontation, or I don't want to get into a fight. There's two types of people. And a lot of people just go, well, I'm nice. That's not me. And I forget the clip. We got to find this. We got to pull it up. He goes, I don't respect someone saying that unless they could actually fight. You know? Like a fighter saying, I'm not going to fight is way different than someone masking their insecurity, their fear, their pain by just being nice.
Right.
And it's such an interesting thing, because that's not actually a nice guy. That's a scared guy. Right. That's a guy that hasn't stepped into himself. That's an inauthentic guy.
Right.
You know?
It's the choice not to.
Yeah. It's almost like, you know, when people, you know, tell me they don't want to share their business idea with me sometimes, you know, because they're like, oh, you're going to take it.
Like, and trust me, I ain't going to steal it.
And I go like, in my head, like, you know, I won't, like, I'm going to be a nice guy, but like, I'm choosing to be a nice guy because I could smash your business, you know, but I won't. And that's different than being like, oh, I won't steal your business. It's like, bro, what? You're not going to steal my business. You don't know the first thing about my business. You know what I mean? Like, you got no chance, you know? It is different. And it's something about that where it's like knowing that, like, to become that person, to become the guy that can fight, to become the guy that can build a business, to become the guy that can build a family or that can do all these amazing things, it takes pain, and it takes you facing your demons. It takes the rain. It takes skipping all the cheats and the hacks and the tricks and the bullshit. It takes putting MELAs in the back of your fucking car and driving and knocking on doors and dropping off cases and saying, here's my number, call me when you need more, and fighting overseas and shipping shit from Vietnam. That's what, 3, 4, 5 weeks to get your shit. So cash flow management and all these things fucking matter, and the barcodes and all those things have to build the version of you now where you get to choose how you act. And that is the power. You actually have the power now to be whatever you want to be in an authentic way, but it comes because you stacked a tremendous amount of pain over a long period of time. And that's what I would always say this, like in hockey, you know, like every team had like a fighter, you know, and like our fighter used to have this chirp. A chirp is when you make fun of someone. You guys, I mean, you played sports, you know this. And he would go to like a guy like that was like kind of being an idiot on the ice, and he'd be like, you know, I can just absolutely sleep you right now, and it would silence the guy. But if I went to the guy and I was like, yo, I will sleep you right now, he'd be like, dude, and he'll keep doing his shit, you know? And the reason why is because of that, you know how many fights that guy had? You know how much pain he's got to go through to earn that? And that's what I think is just the magic behind the pain, behind the rain in this case. It's like, invite it.
Seek failure.
Yeah.
Try to fail. Try to put yourself. That's exactly why you fucking, like I said, you cold plunge. That's why you sauna.
Discomfort.
You're seeking that discomfort. The magic. And that, you know, that's where growth happens. Anyway.
On that note, DP, Miami, yes, a Founder Club member, but most importantly, an incredible dude. I will say, dude, I don't know, I'm sure other people have told you this, but I'm beyond proud of you. I think you should give yourself a tremendous amount of credit, more credit than you already give yourself. You've achieved so much, and I know there's luck, this, that, doesn't matter, bro. You earned every ounce of it, and you should give yourself that credit. So appreciate you coming on.
Thank you for having me, brother. Thank you.
Thank you for tuning in to another episode of the Founder to Founder podcast. And I have one favor, just one favor to ask. Is the only favor I'll ever ask from you. And if you liked what you listened to please like, subscribe, and please just leave a comment. Let us know what you think, how we can make it better. We are all in on delivering value to you. And all we ask in return is that you hit that subscribe. It goes a long way for what we're trying to build here. And as always, we post an episode every single Wednesday, so stay tuned, and thank you for tuning in.